everyone, welcome back to the pod. Today we're diving into something that's been all over the tech news lately, and it involves a little app you might have heard of. TikTok.
Oh man, TikTok. I feel like I'm on that app way too much these days. But, it's for research. Mostly. Anyway, this whole situation with the White House getting involved is like something out of a tech thriller novel.
Right? Okay, so let me set the stage here. The White House is in talks to have this big tech company, Oracle, and some U.S. investors take over TikTok's operations. The date on this, by the way, is January 27th, 2025. Just so we're all on the same timeline.
Yeah, and it's not just about buying a few shares. We're talking about a major overhaul of how TikTok operates, at least here in the U.S. So basically what's happening is they want to shift control away from ByteDance, which is the Chinese company that owns TikTok.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. Why are they doing this? Is it just because they don't like ByteDance? Or is there more to the story?
Well, it's complicated. There's this whole national security concern. The U.S. government is worried that because ByteDance is a Chinese company, the Chinese government could potentially get access to data from American TikTok users.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess. But how would that even work? Like, is the Chinese government secretly watching my cat videos, or what?
It's kind of like, when you give an app permission to access your contacts or your location? It's like that, but on a much bigger scale. They're worried about data like your browsing history, your location data, even what you type on the app. And then, theoretically, that data could be accessed by the Chinese government under Chinese law.
Yikes. So, what's Oracle got to do with all this? Are they like the data police now or something?
That's the really interesting part. Oracle is going to be what they're calling TikTok's secure cloud provider. Think of it like this. All that U.S. user data, instead of being stored on servers that ByteDance controls, it's going to be moved to Oracle's cloud servers, which are based here in the U.S.
So, kind of like digital landlords? They're just renting out space to store the data?
Right, but it's way more than that. They're also going to be in charge of making sure the data is secure, that it's not being accessed by anyone it shouldn't be. It is a big responsibility when you think about it. We're talking about 170 million U.S. users, according to the research.
Wow, 170 million. That's like half the U.S. population or something. That's a lot of data.
Exactly. And here's another thing about this deal. It's not just Oracle. There's a group of U.S. investors involved, too. They're all going to form this new entity called TikTok Global.
TikTok Global, huh? Sounds important.
Oh, it is. So this new company, TikTok Global, it's going to be headquartered in the U.S., and most of the people on the board of directors will be American. It seems like a way to really drive home that TikTok's operations are under U.S. control.
You know what this reminds me of? That whole thing with Zoom a few years back? Remember how they had to beef up their security during the pandemic?
Oh, yeah. Zoom actually moved a bunch of their operations to Oracle Cloud, too, if I recall correctly. I was just reading about this the other day. It was a pretty big deal at the time.
So they've got some experience with this kind of thing then. That's good, I guess. But does this mean ByteDance is out of the picture?
Not entirely. They're still going to have a stake in the company, but it sounds like their influence will be pretty limited, at least when it comes to the U.S. operations.
I don't know, Mark. I mean, it still feels a little weird to me, Like, is this really going to solve the security concerns, or is it just kind of like a Band-Aid solution?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, some experts, like Eva Galperin from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, are saying that we should be focusing more on passing comprehensive data privacy laws here in the U.S., rather than just targeting specific companies like TikTok.
That's a good point. I mean, shouldn't we be worried about how all times companies are handling our data, not just the ones that happen to be owned by foreign companies?
Right? I mean, think about it this way. We've seen plenty of data breaches and privacy scandals with U.S.-based companies, too. Remember the whole Cambridge Analytica thing with Facebook?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. That was a mess.
So it seems like this TikTok deal is really highlighting this bigger issue about data privacy and national security in general. Julia Angwin, who founded The Markup, made a great point about this. She said Congress is freaking out about TikTok, but hasn't passed any real privacy legislation. I thought that was interesting.
It's like we're so focused on the trees that we're missing the entire forest. But I do have to ask the obvious question, what's going to happen to TikTok now? Like, is it going to change for us users?
From what I understand, the goal is to make the transition as seamless as possible. Most users probably won't even notice any difference, at least on the surface. But behind the scenes, there will be a lot of changes in terms of how the data is stored and processed.
Okay, so same cat videos, but hopefully more secure?
That's the hope. This whole thing is pretty significant. It could set a precedent for how the U.S. deals with foreign-owned tech companies in the future.
It's like we're entering a whole new era of tech regulation, isn't it? It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
For sure. And you know the plan is for TikTok Global to go public with an IPO within 12 months.
An IPO? Wow, that's ambitious. I can already hear our listeners thinking, should I invest?
Haha, right? It's going to be a huge deal, no doubt. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the coming months.
Well, this has been fascinating, as always. We've covered a lot of ground today, from data security to national security and everything in between.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how complex these issues are. There are no easy answers, but it's definitely something we all need to be paying attention to.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us, Mark. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next time.